Are there any threads here as to who is typically committing these crimes?
We're starting to track recidivism with offenders. So one of the things we're seeing is that, it's a high percentage of the same individuals that are kind of involved in these incidents. So we can be a little more targeted, a little more specific, ensuring that we know, when individuals that have been involved in violence before, that are banned, that we're getting on them. We're making sure they're not there. So we do see kind of that street violence, kind of that lower level gang street violence occurring within transit. And again, it's just one of those things where we work together, try to get the information, figure out who's involved, and be more, intentional with where we are, when we are, and then who we're dealing with.
What can really be done about repeat offenders like this?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, the first is ensure that when we know who these individuals are, when we see them in transit, we remove them. Right? So it's being preventative. Another thing we can do is be highly visible. So if we have police and we have peace officers in transit, in uniform, in those high violent locations where we know from the data it says that this is an area that's of concern, that we're highly visible and highly proactive. So again, preventative. The last thing is, ensuring that when we see these individuals that are, recidivist or that they're reoffending all the time, that they're the ones that are causing the most violence and concern, is that we're working with the Crown, ensuring that when we're laying charges, that those are proceeding properly.
The data also shows that less than 50% of violent crimes reported on Edmonton Transit led to charges. Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah, part of it is, I think, is the discretion that we're trying to apply. Part of it's evidence, right? We know that there's a bit of a delay sometimes. And again, relating back to the CBC story, if we can contextualize it there, the challenge we had in that one was getting the video of the event. Right, and then going back. So then again, there's this disconnect between you have the city operations within their own operations center. We have our own operations center. There's not a direct link of that video, right, which we're trying to obtain. Because if we can get that, we can react sooner, right? So there's a delay sometimes in reporting, and then there's that delay in getting the evidence that we need to proceed or try to identify these people.
Why are we seeing higher rates of violence on Edmonton Transit compared to the rest of the country, as you know, was reported in our CBC investigation?
Yeah, I think because it's still a pre-existing problem, right? We know that during the pandemic, transit became a bit of a shelter for people. People were going in there. We kind of normalized certain behaviors in there. And now I think we're just working to claw that back. So to your point, yes, violence is still high, but it is down, right? So those reported violent incidents are down. We've done some analysis, like we've looked at the entire ecosystem of transit, and it's continuing to grow, and it's going to grow more in the next couple of years, right? This is a fast-growing, developing city. To effectively police transit, we would need over 250 police officers in there full-time, right? And that's an extreme pressure on the service to do that. So then we look at the peace officer program and say, how do we effectively work together? There may be certain times a day, having a peace officer is the appropriate response. Other times a day, you need police.